Well, it finally happened. Arguably the worst kept secret in the fighting game industry, Mortal Kombat 1 has been revealed after a very obvious teaser a few days ago showing a clock ticking forward to midnight, then skipping its position ahead to 1 a.m., ham-fistedly but effectively confirming that yes, it's another reboot of the Mortal Kombat franchise. If you remember, Mortal Kombat 9 was really technically a reboot after all, but I still consider this a good move. After being a huge fan of Mortal Kombat 9 despite how broken it was in the gameplay and balance departments, I and many others have not really liked the direction they have taken the game in the last two iterations. A back-to-basics approach may well be called for. Whether we are getting this or not, however, has of course yet to be seen. Hey denizens of the intertubes. Necropants here, and today I'm giving my initial thoughts of the Mortal Kombat 1 reveal and imminent release on September the 19th. Thank the Elder Gods. As one of the last poor souls born into the practically forgotten Generation X, but somehow cursed, never to avoid the boomer tagline, I grew up not only in the inception of the video game industry as we know it, but also the last generation to understand what life was like without the internet. And as such, the arcade scene was still a rather common sight in my country, since the consoles had not yet caught up to the technology that could only be found there at the time. And so, being blessed to be born into a region where there was not much to do but go to the beach or drink yourself stupid, video games and the arcade culture became a big part of my life, of which we had two major arcades in my city, as well as machines scattered randomly around the area at various corner stores. One arcade was off the movie theater and was a curiosity, a dark, musty room that was likely a defunct movie theater in itself, accessed by a staircase with a very House of Mirrors vibe and illuminated only by the glow of a dozen arcade machines run by the crazy elderly proprietor of the theater and affectionately known around the area as Spaceys. And another in the area of town which can only be said on YouTube as children we were all forbidden to go to. Orders to which none of us obeyed simply because it had the cooler games. And it was here I encountered my first Mortal Kombat machine. In this age of no internet, where the only gaming news we had access to was to be procured in monthly gaming magazines bought at the local bookstore, I was immediately fascinated. I'd never heard of it. It was, for that matter, the only game that came anywhere close to lifelike graphics in this era, and of course the visceral combat and fatalities that would come to iconize the franchise. I was hooked, and I've been a fan ever since. Mortal Kombat took its place on the podium of the Mount Rushmore of fighting games, along with the likes of Street Fighter and a little later Tekken, and in terms of sales has at this point far surpassed them both. Although Tekken and Street Fighter are a bit more of a priority for me due to just preferring the gameplay styles of those titles in general, Mortal Kombat has always held a special place in my heart due to the mainly more visceral presentation and the subjectively cooler character designs. Some of us may say it's actually objectively. After playing all of the entries in the series religiously until after Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, I fell off once the move to 3D was made by Midway. Gone was the realistic digitized graphics, motion cap, and replaced by the ugly first-generation polygonal models, animations, and a move to the 3D space that only Sega and Namco has ever seemed to be able to get right in a fighting game. Then Mortal Kombat 9 was announced. As Midway dissolved and NetherRealm rose from the ashes to reboot Mortal Kombat in a new and return to its 2D gameplay roots, and it was instantly a massive hit. They just got it with this game. The cast was perfect, the gameplay was fun and solid if flawed competitively, and the single-player story, in my opinion, was the best they have ever done, and carefully explained the reset with all the fan service you could think or hope for. During this time, I mainly played the game on the Xbox 360, and although the online delayed-based netcode prevalent at this time was absolute dogshit, at one point I was in the top 100 rankings of the game online with my mid-tier at best Sub-Zero. And yes, although it does not matter since in this environment you aren't really even playing the same game as the offline experience, I frequently encountered quite a number of the top 8 EVO competitors of the era, such as My God and Forever King, who I held my own against. So in reality, due to the mass amount of fraudulent rage-quitting account boosters at the time, I would actually argue I was probably more in the realms of the top 50. All the while grinding away on my custom MK ergonomic layout arcade stick courtesy of Mad Catz Markman. Absolute nostalgia. Well, except for the fact my stick didn't have all the broken buttons you'll very often find at the arcades. So enough with the old man stories and back to the topic at hand. As mentioned, I never really liked MKX or 11. The former, although I enjoyed quite a bit of the gameplay, I just hated the cast. All the new characters just didn't seem to have that quintessential cool MK style, and Mortal Kombat 11, although fixing a good deal of this issue, Melina at release aside, so I don't get yelled at, and a bevy of nostalgic 80s action hero characters, just really fell down for me at a gameplay level. I find it slow, simple, and quite frankly a little boring. Although Mortal Kombat has never been known for its freedom in gameplay, at say a combo level, it just seemed heavily restricted in this game. Like within hours you could work out the extent of your character's ability, and the controversial variation system, which sounds great on paper, but ultimately leaves you with 3 watered-down versions of your character, none of which particularly satisfied, while many moves were banned competitively in the custom aspect, in which you were given painful restrictions and limited slots with seemingly no rhyme or reason for the ability costs, with one-slot abilities often being some of the most powerful skills in the game, while much weaker ones were set to higher costs. Ultimately, I just didn't spend that much time with Mortal Kombat 11, and I actually hated what they did with my boy Sub-Zero. I am, however, excited for a back to basics as it were reboot, and here we have it. Mortal Kombat 1 and a release date of September the 19th this year. In this, I have to applaud NetherRealm, and I wish more companies did this with their games. Announce them and then release at max 6 months later. This is how you do it, and more companies would do well to take note. Bethesda used to understand this. Although we knew it was coming due to leaks and investor calls and whatnot, it never really feels real until you get that first trailer. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting sick of the release hype for games we end up waiting in some cases half a decade or longer, and by the time they come out, it's usually to massive disappointment, and I'm often just tired by this point. But this is how you do it. Announce and build the hype over the period of a few months, and then just unleash it upon our collectively upturned and eager faces. I'm sorry. So let's see what we have here. Pre-order exclusive playable character Shang Tsung, and as I understand, early beta or beta access, guaranteed beta access. God damn it, they've got me again. It's in our blood. Discover a reborn Mortal Kombat universe created by the fire god Liu Kang. Mortal Kombat 1 ushers in a new era of the iconic franchise with a new fighting game system, game modes, and fatalities. I love how they've always got to mention the fatalities because they just know that's what all the casuals care about. Immersive story campaign. Fight through a brand new story featuring all your favorite Mortal Kombat characters like you've never seen them before. I have some thoughts about this. I'm honestly a little bit sick of the CGI cutscene followed by fights with characters you may not play against poor AI. It's a tired formula for single-player content the competitive scene just does not care about, to the point where they often don't engage with it at all. And as for the casual, you would think they could come up with something a bit more inventive. I am personally a big fan of the Streets of Rage beat-em-up style gameplay for the casual audience, similar to like how the Tekken Force modes, who got a lot of my casual friends into Tekken and actually love that, and have been really disappointed that the later iterations have seemed to have dropped it. You can add all the cutscenes anyway in a traditional arcade mode, and then all the towers nonsense, and I think a Shaolin Monk successor is definitely warranted at this point, but NetherRealm games sell like toilet paper, so I guess they have no desire to change a formula that works for them. We've got cameo fighters. Choose from a unique roster of cameo fighting partners to assist you in battle. I have no idea what this really means. There seems to be some talk that there's going to be an assist characters in this game, like some sort of Marvel vs. Capcom type feature, where you may choose characters that aren't necessarily otherwise playable. Really not sure how I feel about this. Any speculation and opinions are desired in the comments below. I have to admit, I wish they would just deliver the classic cowed look for the ninja characters, bring back some of the mystery to our boys Sub and Scorp, who, if we are to be honest with ourselves, are really the true main characters of the franchise. And the full gamut of console and PC ports. As I understand, Q-Lock is taking honors for the PC version again, and although it was a rocky start last time, I think they kind of got it right in the end. And thankfully, we've got to the point finally where I probably do not have to voice my concerns about the net play, as they finally listened and have begun to do things with rollback, which is the only sensible solution for games like this, while we forever butt our heads across the limitations of physics, time, and space. And on that note, so looks like Mortal Kombat is reversing time back to its origins, with Liu Kang taking the place of the god Raiden. So I wonder if we will see him as just the normal mortal in the game. I think that looks like it may be the case. I hope they also reverse some of the decisions they have made regarding the control scheme. I thought Mortal Kombat 9 was perfect, and it still allowed that classic Mortal Kombat feel, and by the time 11 rolled around, they completely messed it up with the mana burn system that was basically stolen from Injustice, and it makes playing on a stick just really unoptimal way to play the game now, and forced everyone onto pad basically, which I hate. For everything they took from Injustice, as far as I'm concerned, and I know this is controversial, but it should have been hold back to block. There's absolutely no reason to have a dedicated block button in a 2D game, and it actually limits gameplay due to removing like gameplay features such as true cross-ups, for example, and it just makes 4-button control scheme awkward, hence the weird old-school arcade layout they used in the past. Rumor has it the original Mortal Kombat was actually supposed to be a game featuring the 80s action legend Jean-Claude Van Damme. But his notorious personality at the time made the deal fall apart, and we got Mortal Kombat instead, with his character's idea incorporated into Johnny Cage. I have to embarrassingly admit somewhat that I got some ASMR goosebumps, however, to read that JCVD will have a skin in the game to replace Johnny Cage, and this is incredible. Frankly, it should have happened in the last game because of all the 80s action stars you had in that, like the Terminator and Robocop, of course, as well. As a kid who grew up on all these films, including all the Jean-Claude Van Damme ones, I'm far more excited for this than anyone has a right to be. I guess that's it for now. So let's wait and see how the wait till September unfolds. I expect gameplay footage to emerge fairly soon, and will be interesting when the beta is in our hot and sweaty little man-baby hands. Interested in what everyone is feeling about all this, and what would you like to see in a new Mortal Kombat title? Don't fuck it up, NetherRealm.